There's so many women that have gone before me and have taken to the sky.
Do you think there is a need for women in space?
Well, is there a need for men in space?
All these women have been my role models and my inspiration, and I couldn't be here today without them.
Özlem Türeci is the woman behind a leading COVID-19 vaccine.
Women bring an energy to rap that did not exist before.
And the Grammy goes to Cardi B.
Who knows how many others could have been the first if they'd had the chance to try.
Pattern Beauty is launching.
I'm the first person in my family to start a business.
Let's talk about some glass ceilings being shattered.
Jugo Tabai summited heights no woman before her had reached.
We can show girls that anything is possible. It doesn't matter what they look like or where they come from. They can change the world.
I'm Nasla Zusi. I'm the current lead for Women Tech Makers Kathmandu. I am professionally a hardware engineer and developer. Also, I'm program manager for an organization named Women Leaders in Technology, which is for girls who want to pursue their career in technology and achieve key decision-making positions in technological field.
Welcome being part of Women Tech Makers. I see a lot of female representation here today. A lot. Like, can we have applause for all the females who are here today?
I've always advocated for making our workplaces and our colleges and all our environment friendly for women. Talking to men supervisors, talking to men CEOs, COOs, like innovation officers, they always asked us why there are not enough girls in their company, and we had answers for them. A lot of time, there are not even sanitary pads in the washroom. There are not like clean dustbins. There are not enough towels and everything else. It's just like subtle way of telling women that we appreciate having you here. Menstruation in Nepal is a big taboo when it comes to normal conversation. But if we can get menstruation as a normal conversation, then you can start having more conversations like what do women need and what do women want. You want your daughters and you want your sisters to have equal opportunities. You want them to be paid well and respectfully stand their ground in the society. And for that, you need to exercise feminism, building that community where you accept women.
If you want to learn more, check out the Women Tech Makers website linked in the description below. Find the community near you or create your own. And don't forget to subscribe to the Women Tech Makers YouTube channel.
A woman in general in the entire world face a lot of challenges. If I want to narrow it down and go and speak about Lebanon, we face a little bit different. My name is Rayyan. This name could go both men and women. People used to call me and they are very excited. Where is Rayyan? We are looking for the programmer. And I'm like, that's me. And they say, no, we're looking for a man. And they hang up. And even when I make it all the way to the interview, the minute I go into that room, they go pale because they see a hijabi woman. And instead of looking at this as an obstacle for me, I decided to look at it as a filter. I don't want to be in an environment where people cannot work with a woman from a different religion or have different values. My mom used to ask me, do you see another girl doing what you do? And I decided, because I didn't find a role model, I'm gonna become that role model for other girls that will come after me. We started the Women Tech Maker chapter right with the GDG in February 2017. The thing I'm mostly proud of about our Women Tech Maker chapter is now I can see more attendees in any tech event. Even in our Death Fest, we had a huge bunch of women coming because they know that this is a place for them. 1 year after becoming a women tech maker, I find myself mentoring this amazing team of 5 women attending a hackathon in Saudi Arabia, fully hijabi, fully covered. They made it to the top 10, and I was their mentor to prep them to go ahead and deliver their last pitch. When they were pitching, I was standing in front of the stage and doing this, yes, and don't worry, and don't look at the judge, keep looking at me, and they ended up winning the entire thing. And I believe that I actually reached the point to say, I'm becoming the role model I always dreamed of having. The project I'm mostly proud of would be teaching introduction to programming to 7 girls in my hometown in Tripoli, which was a mix of refugees and people from marginalized areas. When I was asked about a project, they were thinking about teaching them how to knit or how to do stuff that was so out of date. And I said, let's teach them how to code. And we actually introduced them to web development. And after 2 months with those amazing girls, they were all able to create their own website and to land an internship in a small company in North Lebanon. There's one thing I always say in my talks, which is the actual reason why I'll do all of this. I'm talking to every woman out there. My challenge was my hijab. My challenge was being a woman in tech. You're gonna hear that you are not good enough. You are not enough. Well, we are enough. You are enough. Don't allow anyone to tell you you cannot do something or you need to let go of any of your values to get a job or to get an advancement in a job. You can do it by maintaining every value you have.
I originally belonged to a town in Pakistan called Hyderabad. While I was growing up, I used to see people working on these magical boxes called computers. I used to get fascinated by it a lot because you could actually use it for talking to people around the world or play games. But while I was growing up, I used to see a lot of men using computers. So I wondered if technology is for men only. My dad encouraged me to pursue computer science so I could learn about the world of technology. Computer science in Pakistan is a field predominantly with men. So I wasn't surprised to find out that I was one of the only 2 girls in my entire class. And despite getting good grades and being very active in academic activities, it was difficult for me to find that confidence to lead. Suddenly one day, I found out about this program by Google called the Developer Student Clubs and mustered the courage to apply as a lead for my university. I simply couldn't believe the day I received the acceptance email. Being selected as a DSC lead not only connected me with several Googlers or industry experts, but also helped me build connections with students globally. The most memorable experience was connecting with the DSC leads from across Pakistan and getting a deep dive into Google technologies through a lens of a community builder. DSC had me think about all the incredible people, personally and professionally, I wouldn't have met, and friendships I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the community. I learned the art of interacting with people, pitching my ideas at hackathons, working with stakeholders, and also problem solving, which not only helped me win 2 national hackathons, but also the DSC signature competition, the Global Solutions Challenge. I believe DSC is just a start. It helped me connect with myself in ways I could have never imagined. I hope that young girls everywhere can step up to create their own opportunities in the position of leadership. And that's the cultural shift I want to bring in Pakistan. Because saying yes is the best thing you can do for yourself.
It feels good to be liked. So whether we realize it or not, we usually feel most comfortable with people like us, who talk like us, work like us, who look like us. But a lot of people like each other in one place creates places that are a lot alike. And too much likeness holds us back. We're more innovative, profitable, and well, just right the more unalike we are. Women Tech Makers is working toward true gender equality in tech. And we need everyone in tech to help us reach this goal. Like Sabrina Farmer, who is sponsoring, not just mentoring women in her field. Brenda Jen, who is supporting women coders through Girl Develop It. And Meko Karake, who is working with his team to understand microaggressions. And we need you. Not just to join us, but to bring someone with you. To be one of millions more women to join the tech industry. Let's get together. Because when everyone in the workplace sees others like them, we can see that we all have a place in tech.
Hi, I'm Melissa Munoz, Program Manager for the Women Tech Makers team at Google. I'm excited to announce our new video series, Women Tech Makers in 60 Seconds. This series, available on the Women Tech Makers YouTube channel, takes topics, technologies, and the skills our presenters have spent years honing, and distills their knowledge into a format that's fun and easy to digest. We'll be publishing a new video every other Wednesday, so you'll meet a whole range of women tech makers from both within and outside Google. What can you learn in 60 seconds? Subscribe and find out. Get alerts for new episodes, and most importantly, share the playlist with your community. We believe strong role models inspire others to action and remove imagined barriers to success. So spread the word, share the link, and help create a more inclusive future.
I hope your day has been good so far. So welcome back to the fourth day of Ideathon 2021. Woo! So my name is Joylyn and I'll be your host for today. And before we start our event, we'd like to thank all our sponsors for making this event happen. Our platinum sponsors, Pitchbot and Airmeet. Our gold and silver sponsors, Wantedly and StreamYard. Our prize sponsor, Google, and our online venue, Google Developer Space. And also to our education partner, our very own PSB Academy, and our community partner, Google Developer Expert, Google Cloud, GDG or Google Developer Group Singapore, and the Google Developer Student Club. So here's the agenda for tonight. Okay, so we will have our first topic will be the 5 stages of design thinking, followed by our second topic, which will be using Google Design Sprint methodology. And lastly, we will have a Q&A session. So if you guys have any questions, you can just drop your question in the Zoom chat box, or if you guys are watching live from YouTube, you can input your question in the live and we will try our best to answer it. And so for today's session is a special session to celebrate women in tech. So for our speaker today, we have 2 amazing, beautiful, skilled women dedicating their time for technology. So first up, we have Miss Shwetha Ravi, who is co-founder and CTO of LearnSeeker. Previously, she was a full-stack software engineer in Feed, and also the student mentor of software engineer in NUS. And the second one is Miss Vaishnavi Dwivedi, who is a Google DSC lead in India and an expert in software development, generating actionable insight from data and visual design. She is also a full-stack developer with a lot of professional experience in building mobile applications. So, without further ado, let's give it up for Miss Shwetha, who will be speaking about 5 stages of design thinking. Woo! Hi, Miss Shwetha. How are you?
Thanks for the...
So, thank you for taking your time to come and attend today's session. I will leave the stage for you to present. Right.
Sure. Thanks, Joylyn. So let me share my screen. Sorry. Okay. Yep. Sorry. I hope everyone can still see my screen. Is this okay? So yeah, to start off with, I'll come to the presentation. Just to go through what I want to cover today, it's these 3 points. So firstly, I'll be going through my background, then the 5 stages, and how you can keep it up as a continuous process throughout your project if you're going to extend it. Best case of a hackathon is you guys make it a startup and then you go big and you become a unicorn. And so to start off with, my background, I graduated from computer engineering about in 2019, but I started off my startup before I graduated in year 2, so that was 2017. Right after my software engineering internship at Fleet, as Joylyn mentioned. So I joined a classmate. He already had a 1-to-1 tuition matching service. And then I basically was like, I think we can just automate a few more things and we can scale this. So that's how we joined forces and we scaled it up to a decent size before we sort of jumped onto another product for tuition center management platform in 2019. And yeah, when the pandemic hit in 2020, both of these products were hit quite badly. So we decided to jump onto another product, which is doing quite well now, which is our online assessment platform. And this online assessment platform comes with a few features, and the core feature that's really helping us push the boundaries in education technology is the AI-assisted analytics for teachers to figure out what their student weaknesses are and then be able to tailor the lessons based around that. Oh, sorry. So just to cover some of the things that I had done for my degree. Let me make this bigger. Yeah. So yeah, on top of the software engineering based internship, I also had plenty of software engineering modules. I also took the NUS design centric program for engineers called IDCP, and it's modeled after the Stanford D School program. I also took a few AI modules, and I have an AI generated art hobby, just plugging my Insta page here. So I tried about 3 revenue generating products, but overall I tried about 6 products, 3 failed. Yeah. And yeah, these were some of the skills I used. So something that really kind of was like a mental block for me was I really wanted to do an AI product. I just thought it was so cool. And, why isn't education using more of this? It's everywhere. It's in every industry, logistics, healthcare, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why did we go through the education system without seeing anything cool like this? But I realized pretty quickly after a few failed ideas that I really needed to examine what it meant to design a product. So I had to ask this, does my product really need AI? And you can slot in whatever other, tech thing you're obsessed with, Bitcoin or AR, VR, fintech. Does my product really need whatever the hell I'm dreaming about? And here's a quick pop quiz. Is your goal as a successful project owner A, injecting AI or X into a problem to solve it? B, providing your users value by whatever means necessary? I did add an asterisk, ethics and law apply, of course. And C, using AI as a buzzword to attract funding and easy sales to your startup. If you were like me, back then you would have answered A, but yeah, the right answer is B. So it's your job to just provide the users the value that they need. And how do you decide what exactly is value to your user, especially if you are designing for something that you wouldn't actually use yourself? So that takes us to the first step of the process. It's empathize. And a good analogy that I found on the Y Combinator website is their hair on fire? So this is just a great startup or great long-term project advice that I found, is to find people with their hair on fire, because if you handed them a brick, they would still grab it and try to hit themselves to put out the fire. So you need to find problems that are so dire that users are willing to try your half-baked V1 solutions, which it will be on the first iteration, even if you're Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. So yeah, basically, yeah, that's the analogy that I'm going to be carrying forward with. So the first key to empathize is setting your own hair on fire. So great, you found a good problem. Someone's hair is on fire. The next step is to really feel their pain, immerse yourself in their environment. The best case definitely is always that you would be a user of the product you have in mind, or you would be a user of whatever solution is to that particular problem. So a few ways to immerse yourself is user interviews. Now on surveys, it's a good way to
Sorry to interrupt, Miss. Can you make the screen a bit bigger, because the people in the Zoom may not be able to see it?
Sorry.
Maybe you can click the present.
Oh.
On.
Can you still see the screen?
It's still loading. Yep. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, is to immerse yourself in the user's environment. So these are some of the tools you can use. On surveys, it's mainly to measure the impact of the solution, but it's not a direct empathy tool. And I've seen so many hackathon users just use surveys and say, hey, we've done a survey, we've got everything. No, it's just one component. You please try to do an interview, and then using some of those interviews, create a semi-fictional user persona, which is basically, amalgamation of your interviews or a day in the life of. And role playing, and also putting yourself in the situation where you would face the problem that you're looking at. And then the 6 is also related to impact measurement, but not a direct empathy tool. And 5 is user segmentation, and we'll come back to that in the following slide. So this is a really good quote that I like from one of books that have helped me. It's called The Mom Test by Robert Fitzpatrick, and basically have a really, really narrow definition of your customer profile. And this will also be relevant in the define stage. And of course, don't have one conversation with 20 different customers, have 20 conversations with one kind of customer. Another quote of mine that I like. This is an example of a persona. This is what I often constructed in the design program. And Jill doesn't really exist, but she can be like the love child of all your user interviews. And you can put in some of the most relevant frustrations that she has. This is a very important section, frustrations. And this is going to help you with the second stage, define. Be very precise. So in a student project, hackathon, or startup, your resources are scarce. Your users have already likely tried a few DIY solutions or existing products. So really listen to them on what works and what doesn't. So the brainstorming is where you will get all these sticky notes out and just throw it up on the whiteboard or wall. My recommendation for this sticky note process, where once you've defined the problem, you're going to ideate and be creative. So an example of a good problem definition is, I would like teenagers to eat more vegetables. And that's better than something like, we need to increase the percentage of vegetables teenagers eat by 5%. Because it does have a quantitative goal baked into it, but it will restrict how much you can dream as well. My recommendation for ideation, when you throw all those sticky notes up to tackle your problem, is to first ideate blind, and then ideate after research. So research is seeing what are there, what existing products are out there, and what works and what doesn't. You will already have some pre-knowledge from your user interviews, because it will come up what they've already tried and tested. But they definitely do not have a full view of the industry. So after you ideate blind with your user interview knowledge, you should do intense deep research, and chances are your best ideas are already done. A fortunate situation is where you have a really good idea and it doesn't exist yet. However, that's a case that it is not technically feasible. So keeping all those things in mind, then you should ideate for one last time and just get a workable prototype out there. Which brings us to the fourth point, the prototype. This will definitely not be a polished product at all, but you have to get something out to your users as quickly as possible, because it's impossible to create a perfect product in a vacuum. Providing your users value by whatever means necessary. So say, for example, you've arrived at a feature that you think will get their hair off fire. use as little code as possible. This is for software. And don't focus on functionality. Focus on user interaction. So don't make it, if you have AI, you don't code out the AI. You just create a low-code prototype. So an example I would like to show is something we came up with right after we had the idea for our AI-assisted grader. Oh, sorry, wrong link. Oh, even worse. And this was something that really facilitated our later user interviews. So we just wanted an AI that will minimally assist in teacher grading of open-ended answers. So we could use natural language processing to then, as the students submit the answer, the AI will give it a grade and also a confidence level. And we wanted to show teachers, does this workflow work for you? They wouldn't trust an AI with a high-stake exam, and they actually at the start wouldn't trust the AI with any exam or any homework. But as we showed them the workflow, hey, don't worry, we will also give you a confidence. You don't have to worry about the high confidence, it's 99%, but the low confidence, and actually you can just verify it even if you don't trust it, because it's easier to compare and verify than to just mark it from scratch. So this was something that helped us facilitate a lot of conversations and also build up the trust of that the workflow would not let them down in terms of having to entirely rely on the AI. Yeah. But we did not code out the AI by the time we had that prototype. We just hard-coded a few values. Yeah. So another way, actually, the best would be no code. I did not know Figma, so that was using React and hard-coded values. But if you have someone on your team who knows Figma, please let them use it. That's a product recommendation from me. Also, if your workflow is a bit more complicated, you should look into just GitHub diving for repositories that come close, and then you can just tweak it instead of writing the whole thing from scratch. So yeah, my recommendation would be 10 to 100 GitHub stars. That's the ideal. And also, if it has to do with AI, look for papers with code. It will give you some starting base. Small repos, they might be more prone to bugs, and the larger repos may be more stable, but the maintainer won't get to your particular issue quickly if you come across any. For computational resources, I really like Google Colab for AI and AWS free tier SageMaker. For non-AI related, you can, of course, use AWS free tier RDS and EC2, and also, of course, Google Firebase, which are two of the products that really helped me out with my previous 6 products. For testing, so yeah, coming back to the analogy, if you handed them a brick, they would still grab it and try to hit themselves. So where do you push your V1 imperfect solutions? Within the group of users that you have identified, you can further segment them into innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards, which is known as Rogers Technology Adoption Curve. The people who will hand you the best feedback for your half-baked solution are in these 2 categories, innovators and early adopters. They have high pain tolerance. Even if your user experience really sucks, if they're excited by the vision that you can sell them, that eventually we will get to a point where we're going to solve your problem and make it seamless, and you'll be productive and your life will be much more better. they can sustain their pain tolerance on that vision you tell them about, because likely they have dreamed about this for years if they've faced this problem for a long time. So yeah, definitely look for people who seem to be open-minded, and they will likely fit into these two golden segments of user testers. So yeah, so for your testing, observe what they do and not what they say. And going back to the book that I would really recommend is the mom test. Definitely measure your product usage. So people will be like, oh, this is amazing, this feature will help me a lot, blah, blah, blah. But what we found from our own experience is people will say, this feature makes a lot of sense, I'm going to use it every day. And then actually they won't, because sometimes people tell you what they think you want them to tell you. It seems like you put a lot of effort in this feature, let me just praise the feature. That's what some people will do. People who are very agreeable. So one way to really get that hard data on whether what you're doing is useful is measure it quantitatively. Look at the time they spend on each page. This is for later stages. But if you can set up something very quickly using Google Analytics or Mixpanel is my recommendation. It's very quick setup. You can then measure on each test how much time they spend on this or how often they use this to see. It will also help you extract what parts of your user flow are really confusing. So yeah. So finally, it's a continuous process. I don't really particularly like this diagram, but it's the only one which had that infinity loop thing with all 4 stages to drive home the point. Because I don't think this diagram is complete. It's also not exactly linear. So they're not well defined one after the other. Sometimes, after say you empathize, then define, then you go to ideate, then you go to prototype, and then that gives you more ideas. Oh, actually, it's way easier if we do it like this. Then you go back to ideate. So you can actually jump around these stages, and these are some of the more common ways you can do that. And yeah, just a few more things is you have to be very resourceful if you're a student or you're a startup or you're in a hackathon. One thing that we found useful was incentivize users to give you data. A few ways to do that is if they're children, to gamify your product as much as possible. If you're an adult at work, they will value productivity and they will give you data in exchange for that. So these are things of values that people will give you data in exchange for. And some people just want more information. That's why Google's so good at getting our data. And actually, for AI, the ultimate goal would be to give users instructions back. That's I'll leave that for another presentation. So a few data hacks is to get you off the ground, because right now you have nothing. If your product is analytics-based or AI-based, synthetic data is fine. It can be rules. So example is we had a bunch of data for our grading. So for our grading platform, we wanted a bunch of Singaporean answers, but we didn't have that. So we had a few computer science answers from Stanford, and we using a few rules answers to the topics that were relevant for a Singaporean data set. And we used a teacher to then confirm and remove all the nonsense answers. As I mentioned, the teachers hired data labelers. There's open source data, and a very interesting data hack is clickbait. So for example, people will also trade entertainment for data. So if, for example, we wanted more answers from Singaporean school kids, we were like, one idea is like, here's a PSLE question that almost no one could answer. Can your kid answer this? So that's so clickbait like that. You can adapt it for your problem. But yeah, people will give you data if you give them entertainment. That's another hack. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. This is my LinkedIn profile. I'll really appreciate connection. And yeah, thanks for hosting the talk.
Thank you, Ms. Shwetha, for the information regarding the design thinking. And we got a lot of understanding and information from this brand new topic. So if you guys have any questions regarding this topic, do let us know in the chat if you're in the Zoom, or if you're watching from the YouTube live, you can also chat us on the live. So yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Shwetha. We will see you later at the Q&A. Okay, so next up, we have Miss Vaishnavi, who will be talking about using Google Design Sprint methodology. So let's give it applause for Miss Vaishnavi. Yay! Hi, Miss Vaishnavi. How are you? I'm good. Okay. Wait, the sound. Okay. Can you try talking again? Okay. There is a little technical difficulties, so we might wait for a while. But yeah, so the topic will be using Google Design Sprint methodology. And if you guys have any questions regarding this topic or the previous topic, you guys can just chat us in the Zoom, or if you're in the YouTube live, you can just send some questions and we will do our best to answer it. Okay, Miss Vaishnavi is back.
Is my screen visible?
Hello. Yep. It's good. Oh. So okay, so I'll let you take the screen now.
Okay. All right. So okay. So like I think the previous presentation mostly covered a lot of things about design thinking, and in this session, we'll talk a little bit about how Google uses these design thinking methodologies in their development, and how we can sort of use them in our in our projects, and while we are also working for the solution challenge. So just to get started, here's something about me. I am a computer engineer, and I'm a student at the University of Mumbai, and I'm a DSC lead at RAIT, which is in Mumbai, India. And I'm a full stack developer and a DevOps engineer at a startup called Bottle. And I'm also founder of something called Mechi, which is yet to be released. And like we're also including all the design thinking methodologies that we will be talking about today in the product. So I guess we can get started now. So for the agenda for today would be, so in the previous presentation, we talked about what design thinking is and how we can use it in a more practical sense in our own lives. And it was a more hands-on kind of a thing. But in this one, we will be talking about how Google does it, how Google crafts and tests their solution, and we'll be discovering a few methods and tricks and sort of like sprints, wherein we will be talking a little bit more about how we can sort of go about doing it. So like just take a minute and try to understand what design thinking is. So if you were attentive in the previous session, I'm pretty sure that you have a very good idea of what design thinking is, what are the different 5 different stages of design thinking. And we will be talking a little bit more about this, but for now, this is essentially what the formal definition of a design thinking would be. So design thinking is a creative a problem-solving process that focuses on a user-centered approach to create a solution that is technologically and economically feasible. And here, when we talk about technologically and economically feasible, that really means that honestly, it depends on you. Whatever is technologically and economically feasible for you might be different might be different from someone who is working at Google, let's say. So you might not have that many technologies, that many resources available at your disposal. So this is essentially the most important thing that you need to keep in mind, that why are you doing this and whether you can do it or not, whether you can afford building an idea or not. So, and this approach is mainly user centric. So we are creating it for the users. There's a role called a product manager. There's a person called a product manager in a company, and they are essentially someone who represents the consumers. And they usually in any product company, we have these design thinking methodologies in place. And even Google sort of goes through these sprints. So we'll talk a little bit more about these sprints in the next few slides. Now, in the previous presentation, we saw that, there are 5 stages of design thinking: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. We will be looking into these again, but we would be looking into some methods some sort of methods that Google uses to make sure that these steps are achieved. These outcomes, the outcomes that we want from these steps are achieved. So okay, yeah, I mean, we can look into some examples from our everyday lives. So now all of you might, during the lockdown, I'm pretty sure that a lot of you might be using Netflix or, watching movies on different platforms. But it used to be it was not an invention, right? It wasn't something that was not there already. We used to have cable. We used to have on-demand television as well. We used to record television shows and we used to watch them at our own convenience. But this design thinking technology, this design thinking methodology was applied by Netflix into this whole process of on-demand television. And hence we are able to watch any movies, our favorite TV shows at our disposal whenever we want. And it's not like we can only use it on our TVs, but we could also use it on different devices. So this is what design thinking does. It thinks about the user. It makes the user's experience more feasible, more interactive in that sense, and making sure that the consumer is happy. And same goes for the other examples listed here, like foot activated car door. So if, let's say, you if you do something with your foot, the car doors open. This is this is a new technology that is used in self-driving cars at Google. But this is not something that we will obviously go into, since this is sort of out of our scope of this session. But yeah, these are some of the things, these are some of the examples of design thinking in our everyday lives. Now, this cycle that you can see on the screen here: build, launch, learn, and idea. So this is usually what the kind of sprint that happens in every product company. We think of the idea, we build it, we launch it, and then we learn about whether or not the idea was feasible enough, or whether the user was satisfied by the idea, whether the problems of the users were solved by the idea. And then again, we get some more idea about those things, and then we again go ahead and do all of those things. Now, when we are essentially in the first few initial stages, we could actually make sure that we don't have to go and build and launch and then everything, and then learn about the users' insights. We can also use the different design thinking techniques and different methodologies to make sure that we can just jump from the idea to learn the insights from the users. So if we have an idea, we can have a product survey, we can have prototypes, we can have something like as Shwetha mentioned, that we can also design mock-ups on our on Figma or Adobe XD. We can show it to some users, get some insights out of those things. So we basically just try to empathize with the user. We make sure that we learn as much as possible before we start building and launching. So this is essentially very important in today's world, because especially for those of us who don't have that many resources to spare. Like a lot of us don't have like AI model GPUs and like those kind of stuff. A lot of us don't have that luxury. So obviously we need to make sure, we need to be absolutely sure that before we start building something, before we actually launch it to people, we make sure we have enough information about whether or not it's a feasible solution and whether or not it's something that people are interested in pursuing or having in their lives. Now there are certain this is like essentially the design sprint, like the design sprint designed by Google, which is usually given to students like yourself. And because the thing is that the design thinking, when we go into design thinking, when we look at the different stages of design thinking, we look at 5 stages, and all of those stages might not be relevant to us as as students, as people who are still building our our portfolio and stuff like that. We're still trying to understand what kind of technology we want to use, what kind of projects we want to build and stuff like that. So first we try to understand the idea, we define the problem statement, we sketch it out, we make sure that we know exactly what is important, what are the challenges faced by the groups that we've identified, and then we sort of decide what problems we want to solve. And when we pick those problems, we prototype them into solutions, and then we validate those solutions, making sure that okay, whether or not this works, or like whether or not this satisfies the need of the users. So this is essentially what the design sprint looks like, and it is not that different from design thinking. We look into design thinking more in the Google way, like the way we have like the different techniques that Google uses in their different stages of design thinking. We look into those, and but this is something that you can keep in mind, you can take a note of it, and you can make sure that you use it the next time you're trying to build a project. Let's say your your school project, or even the projects that you build for solution challenge. So let's quickly go through the different stages, and let's make sure that we have like the tricks that Google uses to achieve these steps. So first of all, we need to empathize with the user stories, the emotions, the insights about them. So who is the user? We need to ask ourselves that, okay, who is the user? What are the problems they face? So we establish that empathy in that process. Then we understand our users. So let's say if we're taking women of color, what are the problems that they are facing? Okay, so here a few examples are that parents of young children not yet in school. It's a very specific sort of a problem that parents face, and like we are defining who the parent is. Like if you just say parent, there might be lots of parents. There are liberal parents, there are parents who are very very strict, or there are parents who have teen sons and daughters. So we are sort of focusing on parents of young children who are not yet in school. We need to define our users very very specifically, because if we try to cater, if we're making a, let's say, an educational platform, we need to make sure what kind of students would be using it, because there are students who are aiming to be doctors, there are students who want to be engineers, there are students who want to do different kinds of things. So this is exactly like, you know, these are the exact like, we need to make sure that we know exactly who the user is. Only then we'll able to think about a particular problem that they are facing. So the first step in this is selecting an audience, let's say busy professionals, after school teachers, parents with young children, and then use Google Docs to write down at least 10 challenges that they face. And you need to make sure that you completely imagine yourself in their shoes. You need to make sure that you live their life. You can even talk to some people who are in that position. You can, but the first thing you need to do is make sure that you know who you want to target, because that is the first step in order to build any solutions, any ideas that you want. So these are usually this is usually how we start. And using Google Docs, you write down the 10 challenges that they face. Now that we have the challenges, we need to start defining them. Now like, make sure that you analyze your observations about the user and synthesize them to define core problems you have identified as the problem statement. Now, what is a problem statement? We'll see it here. Now, we need to make sure that we know a couple of things about the user itself. So firstly, we need to make sure that we have a user's persona. Like, you can give a name to the user. Let's say if you don't want to use a generic name, you want to build a product for, let's say, Elon Musk, or not for Elon Musk, but you can just use that name as a, you know, like, okay, it's a persona, so that you know that you have personalized that whole experience. It helps to imagine it that way, because when you know that there is an actual person involved, when you use a name, you know that there is an actual person involved, and you want to help them, and not just, you know, have a business strategy or like just build a project or something. You want to connect with them, so use a name, use a persona. Then make sure that you know the user's characteristics, what the user does or what the user is in their daily lives. So let's say Sam here is a busy manager who needs, so you need to also make sure that you know what the user's needs are. You need to make sure that like, since you in the first phase you made sure that you empathize with the user, so you need to know what the user's needs are, and you need to make sure that you have a list of those needs. And the needs are essentially like challenges only, but in a different sort of a way. But when you're thinking about challenges also, something or the other led you to think that this challenge is caused. So maybe there is a reason behind that challenge. So you need to mention that insight as well. Because so let's say Sam is a busy manager who needs a way to integrate healthy eating habits because he doesn't want to feel like he's on a diet. So this is like the reason why the reason why he want to integrate healthy habits is because he doesn't want to feel like he's on a diet. So yeah, I mean, that is essentially all you need to make sure that you have a properly framed problem statement. And you can use like in order to define the problem statement, you need to do it in a human centered manner. So you having a username, a user characters, a user characteristic, who needs, user need because of insight. So make sure that you make a note of this, and the next time you're thinking about a problem, when you're actually thinking for, you know, ideas to you know, sort of come up with for projects or something like that, you can make sure that you have a problem statement like this, so that you, in the next stage where you ideate, you'll be able to come up with better ideas. So in the ideating stage, you engage with the unfiltered, unrestrained brainstorming. Till now, you were like writing down everything that came into your mind. So how do you sort of make sure that you overcome the obstacles that the user is facing? So in this is the main phase, and you need to make sure that you are able to understand this. So here is something where Google comes into picture. Like Google does something like a crazy eights method. So what you can do is, Like either you can have like a 2x4 table on your Google Docs, or if you don't want to get too fancy, you can just have an A4 size paper divided into like 8 different boxes. So in these 8 different boxes, make sure that in each section write down an idea. Make sure that each section has some sort of a significance. Make sure that you don't limit yourself here. You go absolutely crazy with these 8 ideas, and only 8 ideas here. Okay. And you need to keep in mind the challenges that you the problem statement that you define, and you need to make sure that you stick to it. You don't have to go beyond its scope, and you need to make sure that whatever you're writing down in each of these sections sort of relates, sort of solves the problem statement itself. So for example, women of color looking for socially conscious brands. The possible solutions in this could be like a program that donates an item to someone in need with every purchase, or an app that finds you local fresh produce. So this is like something. These are some of the ideas that you can come up with, but you need to make sure that you limit yourself to 8, but you don't limit yourself while brainstorming here. So you don't limit yourself, just make sure that you write down 8 possible solutions to solve the problem statement you created. Any idea or solution that comes to mind is welcome. You don't need to think about technologically feasible or economically feasible at this point, although it is a plus point while you're sort of, going ahead and like when you in the prototyping stage, you need to make sure that whatever your ideas are, you'll have to at some point filter them. So if you do keep those constraints in mind, that is fine, because when you constrain yourself, you get more creative with things. But if you don't want to do that, either thing works, but make sure that you think of crazy ideas that you can implement, and don't limit yourself in that way. Now we go ahead in the prototyping section. So here we talk about something which is called the MVP, which is a minimal viable product. And these days, minimal viable product is not that relevant as it used to be, because right now in today's world, every product out there, if you can see, is absolutely amazing. Like there's no product, because there are so many products that belong to a single category trying to solve the same problem. So that's why there are already many solutions out there for a similar problem statement. But if you're building something innovative, if you're building something out of the box that hasn't been thought of before, usually that is not the case. But like just improving something, then you can think of something called a minimal viable product. And what is it? Basically, a minimal viable product, you can see these 2 examples. It's not like you have like you just go step by step exponentially or something like that. It's not like that. You don't build just the structure of, let's say if you're building an app, then you don't just build the structure of the app and then you add more features to it, then you beautify it a little, you change the colors, change the brand, change the font. No, it's not like that. What you do is you have a complete product ready for you in the first phase, having only the features which are absolutely essential to solving the problem. Then you add more things to it, you attach more features to it, so that it could look a bit more fancy. You can try to change the product entirely, and at the end of the day, it might end up to be something completely different from what it used to be. But this is the whole process of prototyping, again comes with the next step. But we look into first, like we look into how the prototyping thing works. So we pick one of the feasible ideas and we flesh out how would we build the solution. Think about this technology needed, the time needed, the money needed, the resources available. So in this stage, you need to make sure that you adhere to the constraints that we talked about in the first slide, which is economically and technologically feasible. So you need to make sure that whether or not your idea is feasible. So you need to pick at least one of your feasible ideas. And actually, it is good if you pick just one, because if you pick too many ideas and try to combine them, it might become too complicated, and then you might end up procrastinating. Because I'm telling you that because that has happened to me. Whenever I try to have many different ideas with me together, it doesn't work out. So pick one feasible idea and make sure that you understand what the constraints are. Make sure that you understand what the technologies you'll be using, how much time there will be required. And there are, like, in this step, there are a lot of things that you can do. So, and this is the most important step, out of all the steps in design thinking. This is where the software development life cycle starts. And essentially, like, the prototyping and the testing step sort of includes in the software development life cycle. So this the software development life cycle is sort of out of the scope of this presentation, but if you want, you can check it out on Google. You can make sure that you can Google it out, and you can read up about it. So moving on to the testing phase, which is the last phase. Now, test the complete product using the best solutions that you've identified during the prototyping. Now you have to refine the product as needed. So when you build something, you give it out to users, then you take some feedback, you integrate that feedback, and then that process goes on, and it's an iterative process in that way. So today, like, you can use design thinking in many ways. So, like, coffee donations to first responders and healthcare workers, on online coffee sales, social media and online advertising strategies, pivot to digital presence, any of these ideas that are here. So in the testing phase, this process is sort of iterative. You get some feedback out of about whatever like, if these are the examples, then you get some sort of feedback out of it, and then you go ahead and integrate that onto your onto your product. That is an iterative process. So we've covered the whole process: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. I'm pretty sure you've written it down, and this is how Google does it. This is how this is how the design sprint goes on. And in each and every step, you can go ahead, go as crazy as you can, but never limit yourself in that way. Make sure that you use these ideas, like, because not always would ideas just pop in your head, because something that you might think is feasible, something that you might think would be cool to build, might not actually be useful to the user. So make sure that even as a student, you're able to you're able to cater to you actual users, and make sure that your products are more usable in that sense. Because if you're just like building something as a project, and just sits on your GitHub, that doesn't make any sense. When you show your recruiters, your future recruiters and your future let's say universities and all, they will see that you have produced actual products which are used by actual people and impacting their lives as well. And design thinking is the way to do it. So yeah, that's it for the presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And I think we can stop the presentation now.
Thank you so much for the amazing presentation for today. I believe the participants had enjoyed it and learned a lot from this session. And now we're going to go to the Q&A session. As I said earlier, if any of you guys have any questions for the speakers, you guys can just type it on the Zoom, or if you're in the YouTube, you can just chat it up and we will answer your questions. So, okay, while we wait for the questions, since today's session is celebrating women in tech, so I have some women in tech related question for you guys. So my first question is, What does working in tech mean to you guys? Anybody wants to answer first?
Yeah, I mean, I can go first.
Okay.
I think what I feel is that working in tech is obviously like, I mean, it's an amazing experience. And I have always felt that, I am an engineer, and I mean, I have been very different from the people that I've had on like in my team. Usually what happens is that if I'm on a developer team, I'm the only girl there. So, but I mean, sometimes it does get a little bit uncomfortable, but it has been a great journey in learning from each and every person that I've worked with. So, being in tech is obviously an amazing experience for all of us, for all, like everyone, I would say. And I honestly think that, we shouldn't look through the lens of gender or in any bias. We should make sure that, we look at ourselves as engineers, designers, and not like, restricting ourselves to a gender or to a particular race, I would say. So yeah, I mean, I think that is how I feel. So yeah.
How about Miss Shwetha? Do you have anything to add?
Oh, yeah, I share most of Vaishnavi's views. Yeah. I really like being in technology because I can actually see what I'm doing, I guess. I don't know, compared to accounting or finance or, yeah, it just seems more hands-on. Also, yeah, on being a woman in tech, I feel, yeah, it's quite male-dominated. My cohort was only about 20%. But, eventually the gender differences, they slide away as you get to know each other. I do think there are some systematic issues, which is why I'm very glad for initiatives like this that show more female faces in tech, because part of the reason why I felt more comfortable pushing past the fact that it's not 50-50 was seeing so many women in leadership roles in tech and working these awesome jobs. So these powerful counterexamples really inspire me.
Okay. Wow, that sure is amazing. And then second question, what made you guys choose this job role? Like you guys are in the technology field. Why do you pick technology?
So I would say that, I mean, when I was like, as a kid, also, like, I've always, wanted to be an innovator, like not necessarily an engineer, but someone who can create new things, like more of an inventor. I wanted to be an inventor, and I wanted to invent like a time machine or something like that. But that is essentially what got me into, technology in general, like STEM. So because of which I, got into a lot of other things, like there's this organization called the New York Academy of Sciences, where I got most of my mentorship. And like there, I didn't like sort of have that tech experience, but I was in STEM. But initially, like in my school years, I did a lot of HTML and like, web development and stuff, which really, like, I used to love it, and I still do. And like, it has been like an exponential growing experience, like going on from HTML4 to React and Angular and stuff like that, and technologies like that. So yeah, and I mean, I have learned a lot, and I feel that, that urge to build something cool is essentially why I got into tech. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure that like most people have that knack for, innovation. That's why they go into tech. And I would say that everyone wants to, do something that impacts people's lives. So yeah, I think that is essentially why. So yeah.
Okay, and Miss Shwetha, how about you? You're on mute, Miss.
Sorry.
It's okay.
When I was a kid, I tried to build a video game, and then I kept building more complicated things, and that's how I ended up here. Why technology as opposed to something that is also hands-on, like maybe medicine or architecture? I mean, both also use technology, but technology is just so universal. I can hop into any industry that I want. If I'm bored of one, I can just do fashion technology, see how software and augmented reality can help stuff there, or I can jump into culinary arts or wherever. So I really like how versatile the skills that you gain in technology are.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that statement. If you're bored, you can just jump into another one. And okay, third question. When you were looking at going into such a male-dominated industry, was this like off-putting?
I didn't get that. Like, can you repeat the question?
Okay, so when you start, like, you see that this industry is full of like male people. Is it like, do you feel down sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that sometimes yes, that when you're in hackathons, like when you go into hackathons and like there's this prize for on an all girls team, and then when you go ahead and want to find some female hackers, it's very difficult to get that. It's really difficult to find a team of girls, although now it has improved vastly. But when like in last year, like I think in 2018 or before the lockdown, I would say, like most of the hackathons had more male projects and teams and stuff. And even in my workplace, we have more of a male dominated thing. Even the product, like from product managers to designers to developers, everyone is a dude. So it's not that, like, it wasn't that great. But when we started having more female interaction, we had more diversity, we had more ideas, we had more diverse perspective on things. So I feel that that really helped. So yeah, it does like it is sort of, sometimes it is sort of demotivating that you're the only girl. But it gets better when you have like a fellow woman in tech with you, like helping you and standing up for you and stuff like that. So yeah.
Miss Shwetha, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I do feel it's good when you have a fellow girl there, because sometimes the conversations can get just so male centric and you can't relate. Not to say that there are any exclusively male topics, but yeah, I think as long as the work culture is not toxic, or I'm good with almost any gender balance. But for my own company, I would definitely aim to have as many women as possible. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So this is my last question before we jump onto the participants' questions. What advice would you give for women wanting to go into the tech industry?
I would say that like one advice would be that don't doubt yourself, don't underestimate yourself, and don't think that like it's difficult so you won't be able to do it. You just have to sort of plow through and just go ahead, make sure, like give it your best shot. And I think that is something like that women should be should keep in mind, because a lot of women experience imposter syndrome even after like years of experience. So if they start making sure that they believe in themselves from an earlier stage itself, they won't be able to they won't face such problems later on. So I think that way they'll be able to cope with things in a much better way. And I'm pretty sure that by the time you you bloom and blossom in the field of tech, there'll be like equal representation as well. So yeah, that's the hope.
For Miss Shwetha, any advice?
Yeah, just speak a lot. Yeah. Underspeak. I don't know why. But they often they get interrupted a lot. So don't let yourself get interrupted so often, and don't be shy to interrupt someone also.
Okay, so the conclusion: don't get trampled on.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the participants' question now. Let's see our first question. So, design thinking requires the direct involvement of users in order to get feedback. And then, okay, the next spinner. This also means that there must be an availability of time and resources. So, for short-term projects without time luxury, how can we tackle this problem? From Chan Shong Huang.
So I think I feel that if you don't have that much time, what you can do is just make a quick form and like ask a couple of relevant questions, not a couple, but like a few relevant questions. That is at least what I do whenever I want to build a new project. And I always try to make sure that the projects are actually usable by people. And we always use design thinking techniques. So the best way you can do it quickly is by doing a product survey, an idea survey, I would say, that trying to understand and trying to validate your idea before like actually going ahead and like building it properly. When you're in the when you've defined your problem statement, make sure that you it will just go ahead just make sure that you forward that form into relevant communities so that they can fill it up, and you would then get to know about things. Make sure that the form is not subjective in that sense. Make sure that it's like more objective questions, like a yes or no, and like maybe some options. But yeah, I think that should do for like in order to make sure that if you don't want to get involved with users. But otherwise you can, like if you have time, you can do beta testing and all that towards the end of it. I would not get into what beta testing is, but yeah, like that is what you can do.
Okay, Miss Sweta, do you have anything to add?
Actually, yeah, if you can choose your project topic, then definitely choose something so that you are also a very relevant user persona, so you can get quick information from your own experience. Yeah. No, other than that, yeah.
Okay, so do we have another question here? Let me see. Okay, in reality there are IT tech companies in Singapore unwilling to innovate. What is your take?
I think they should. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel that, I see the thing is not even in India, like IT tech companies don't care. They just want to do stuff the way they do it, the way they've always done it. And the people who are actually ready to innovate are actually the startups or the recent companies. So if it's like a established ID company, I would say that it would be very difficult for them to get to a different methodology. And honestly, they think of profits more than users, which will eventually it would get like it would be redundant, because once there are a lot of products that would be user centric, the products that don't cater to the users would like just turn into garbage basically. and then they'll have to pivot their model. So I think just wait or something. I don't know.
Miss Shweta, do you have anything to add?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Oh, okay. So the question is, in reality, there are IT tech companies in Singapore unwilling to innovate. What is your take?
IT tech companies. Usually I think of those as software houses. They take in clients that are usually other SMEs to build their website or something to make their processes more efficient. So they're usually user demand driven. The user requirements are all given out to them, and then they just plan a waterfall so they can hit all the requirements. So yeah, there isn't that drive. There isn't something, there isn't a fire under their butts, or, they're going to die if they don't innovate, unlike startups like Vaishnavi mentioned. But just because because there's less motivation, the stats are not in their favor to innovate, but there are some that are innovative if they have bigger dreams of expanding to other countries. Those are the type that I would think.
Okay, another question. What's your experience that you had when you participate in your first hackathon? Would you like to share?
Yeah, so what I feel is that my first hackathon was a virtual hackathon because I started doing hackathons in the lockdown itself and not like before that. Because before, actually, I used to do I used to go to debates and not like hackathons. So, but then in the lockdown, I decided that, I want to build more projects and I want to, work with different people and meet with different people. So I started doing hackathons, and it was a fairly good experience for a virtual hackathon. Although, I managed to get some girls to team up because we had an all girls team prize, and even though we didn't win it, it was a good experience because we learned how to collaborate virtually, which is a very essential thing in today's world, I would say. So yeah, I think it was a fairly good experience. I think, yeah.
For Miss Shweta, how was your first hackathon experience?
My first hackathon, I think, was the Amazon IoT hackathon in Singapore, and we didn't get anything done. We spent most of it arguing about how to build the thing, and then we ended up making a PowerPoint presentation on how we think it should work, and some half-baked code. Yeah, that it wasn't the best experience. But
that is kind of relatable, though. You just argue your way.
Yeah, we redid the thing like 3 times, and yeah, nothing came of it. So my next few hackathons were with different people and a different version of me, so it went better.
Okay, there's another question from the audience. In your opinion, will system thinking be more suitable than design thinking if we don't have the time for collection of feedback? From Shannon.
What thinking? Can you repeat the question?
In your opinion, will system thinking be more suitable than design thinking if we don't have the time for collection of feedback?
Okay. Honestly, I don't have that much idea about systems thinking, but if you don't have time to collect feedback, I would say that since design thinking is a more user-centric process, I don't think that then design thinking, you won't be able to actually follow design thinking without actually getting feedback from people. So I would say that, in that case, you can either maybe try to reach out to users, or if not, then just, have a hunch, or, just as Shweta said before, make sure, if you have if you belong to, make sure that you make something for your own community, where how exactly things go, and you know all the challenges. So that way you don't have to interact with people. You know, you've experienced it on your own. So I think that should work then. But yeah, I think that is, I mean, you can't do design thinking without feedback, I would say. So yeah.
Miss Shwetha, do you have anything to add?
No, I hadn't really heard of systems thinking before this as a, but it sounds like a theory of how to put together systems. Yeah, I shouldn't really.
Okay. So, this is the ending question. What advice would you like to give to the women hackers who participate in our Ideathon 2021?
I would say team up with more, fellow women hackers, and and you can make sure that you stick to the problem statement. I mean, as I explained in the presentation, like make sure that you have a solid problem statement, because I think that is essentially the motive of the ideathon. And in order to make sure that you get to explore different ideas, and you get to brainstorm in the craziest way possible. So I would say don't limit yourself, and make sure that you have a solid problem statement. So yeah.
Miss Shwetha, any advice?
For a hackathon, I don't have any female specific advice, but maybe if you're if you're doing a project that caters to women exclusively, then having more women on your team would help. But also maybe keep one man. He might offer some diverse perspective. Yeah.
Okay. So before we finish off our session, so we're gonna have a little photo session. So for those in the Zoom, you guys can turn on your camera if you want to, but if you don't want to, then it will be just 3 of us here, like usual. Because I think the last few session, it's only the speaker and the host that has the camera on. So okay, there's another question. Sorry. IT tech is a transferable skill set to non-tech roles. How will you advise that?
IT tech is.
Anybody wants to answer?
Does it mean what are some skills I learned in IT that are transferable to non-tech roles?
Oh, there's a continuous. I do have ladies friend who used to graduate from IT for first bachelor degree and worked for 2 to 5 years in IT and did mid-career switch to early childhood educators.
I feel that working in IT, especially if you're working in a startup, I'm not sure if, uh, I'm not sure if this might be that relevant, but if you like working in IT, if if you worked in a startup, then I think you will learn a lot of different non-technical skills as well, apart from the technical skills. So you will learn how to communicate, how to make sure that people are how to communicate, collaborate with people. And I think some of those skills are very important in any field that you go into. But you can also learn more about deriving insights, and like if you're into data analytics and stuff, you can use that data analytics in non-technical roles as well, like let's say marketing or something. But yeah, I feel that more and more industries are getting everything is now becoming more data centric in that way. So if you want to transition into a non-tech role from an IT role, I think that shouldn't be a problem, because IT roles give you a lot of exposure in general. So yeah, I think it shouldn't be that difficult.
Ms. Shwetha, do you have anything to add?
Oh, no, I think she said it perfectly. Yeah.
All right. Okay, there is another one. I think generally, design thinking is hard to use in processes that aren't open ended. So, do you guys agree with this statement or not?
Open-ended as in? Like,
Wait. For the person who sent this statement, can you elaborate? Okay. I think we need to wait for the answer. While we wait, how about we take the photo first? Okay, so I'll say 1, 2, 3, and we will post, and the controller will take a screenshot. So for those who are in Zoom, do turn on the camera so 3 of us are not alone here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay, the answer hasn't been answered yet. So maybe do you guys have any idea what the open-ended means? Like, just take a guess.
I think it's when the user knows exactly what they want and they tell you get it done exactly like this. Here's the product. Here's the wireframes. Just make it make all the colors like this. Make the buttons like this. Then you have no room to innovate, right? Or really have that iterative thing. That's what I think.
Oh yeah, I think it is. Okay, so if that's the question, like that's the case in the question, do you guys agree on the statement that design thinking will be hard to use in processes that aren't open-ended?
I feel that design thinking is, a highly solution-oriented process. So if you already have the solution, if you already know uh, how you want to do things, and if you're like if you're like a superior in this whole process, like if you're the one who is making the decisions, then you can probably try to switch over to design thinking. But if you're not, if you're like just someone is just a developer who's trying to build stuff, then I don't think you would be able to do that, because like you just have to, like if you have a client who wants things done exactly the way they want it, so that in those things, yes, it is not possible to have design thinking in that, because you, if you know everything about it, then you probably know what the idea is, what the the audience is, and why you're building it. So, and if you're not, if you don't, then just make sure that you get the answer for the question, that why you're building it and who you're building it for. So I think that should sort of set you in that path. So if there are things that you're not covering for the people you're building the product for, you would be able to include those features, you would be able to include those things as well. So if like it's not entirely impossible, but I would say that it depends on you, like since you're the one building it, unless you're like restricted by external forces or supervisors or something like that. But otherwise, you can definitely make sure that you use design thinking. So yeah.
Okay, Ms. Shwetha, do you have anything to add?
Oh, yeah. Like she mentioned, if you have information on what they're building and why they're building it, then even though they don't give you a lot of freedom, it's impossible for the user to completely box in every single aspect of the product. So you can always take the initiative to suggest or inform them from your own experience. If they're not open-minded and if they're not open-minded about your suggestions, that's tough. Yeah, but most people, I think, would be open to that, since they're trying to get you to build something they care about. Yeah.
Okay, last final question. How possible if tech giants corporate not eating into young tech startups pie and cutting off contribution?
I didn't get the question.
So wait. How possible if tech giants corporate not eating into your young tech startup spy and cutting off contributions? So like maybe the tech giants taking over the young startups contribution, I think. So like they're taking off the role, I guess.
Yeah, like I feel that as long as they are helping the startup, since if it's a giant corporation, I mean, it is definitely possible that they have a lot more resources, they have a lot more budget, money, financial resources, and like technological resources as well. So as long as they are helping the startups to increase that restriction on the technological advancements that you can use in the projects, as long it's there. I don't see a problem with tech startups taking over, tech giants taking over startups. But if they are not letting the startups innovate, uh, then it's obviously a problem. Then it totally depends on the startup owner, because obviously they are under a lot of pressure as well. They have to make sure that their employees are paid as well. So it might be a decision that was taken under certain circumstances. But yeah, I feel that as long as as long as the IT giants provide the necessary resources, the necessary platform to the startups idea and its initial idea, I think that way we can, like, that way it should be all right, I guess. But it depends on situation to situation, I would feel. So yeah.
Okay. So the time is running out, and thank you so much for both of the speakers today for coming in and teaching us about new stuff. And before we close our session tonight, I have a little announcement. And wait, so thank you, Miss Vaishnavi and Miss Shwetha. I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let me move on to the session. So last night we have a photo contest in Discord, and let me pull up the school pictures of the team's workplace. And this one is from Team Sec I, and then we have Team Prime Calculus, and also Team Error Stacker here. And also we have a little BTS from the club president's workplace. Did I put it? Oh no, I forgot. But yeah, I think you guys, if you're a participant, you can see the Discord for the pictures. And the photo contest winner will be chosen based on the most voted picture, right? And so without further ado, let's announce the winner. So the winner for the photo contest is, drum rolls, Team Sec I. And I forgot to put it into the slide, but Team Sec I won, yeah, based on the votes. And also, before we finish off, a reminder that the next session will be held on 17th of March at 7:30 to 9 p.m. SG time, where we will be discussing about making apps with Flutter, as well as getting tips and tricks to improve our user interface. So make sure you guys join that. Well, I guess this concludes today's session. And thank you for all the speakers for coming and sharing their insights. We'd also like to thank our platinum sponsors, Pitchbot and AirMeet, our gold and silver sponsor, Wantedly and StreamYard, our prize sponsor, Google, and our online venue, Google Developer Space. And to our education partners, PSB Academy, our community partner, Developer Student Club, Google Developer Expert, Google Cloud, GDC Singapore, or Google Developer Group Singapore. Once again, thank you for the sponsors for making this event happen. And we'd also like to thank all the participants who have participate and join us on Zoom. Also, to those who are in the YouTube live, thank you for coming. So my name is Joylyn Lineth. Have a great night and see you next session. Bye!
I originally belonged to a town in Pakistan called Hyderabad.
It feels good to be liked. So whether we realize it or not, we usually feel most comfortable with people like us, who talk like us, work like us, who look like us. But a lot of people like each other in one place creates places that are a lot alike. And too much likeness holds us back. We're more innovative, profitable, and well, just right the more unalike we are. Women Tech Makers is working toward true gender equality in tech. And we need everyone in tech to help us reach this goal. Like Sabrina Farmer, who is sponsoring, not just mentoring women in her field. Brenda Jen, who is supporting women coders through Girl Develop It. And Meko Karake, who is working with his team to understand microaggressions. And we need you. Not just to join us, but to bring someone with you. To be one of millions more women to join the tech industry. Let's get together. Because when everyone in the workplace sees others like them, we can see that we all have a place in tech.
There's so many women that have gone before me and have taken to the sky.
Do you think there is a need for women in space?
Well, is there a need for men in space?
All these women have been my role models and my inspiration, and I couldn't be here today without them.
Islam Turisi is the woman behind a leading COVID-19 vaccine.
Women bring an energy to rap that did not exist before.
And the Grammy goes to Cardi B.
Who knows how many others could have been the first if they'd had the chance to try.
Pattern Beauty is launching.
I'm the first person in my family to start a business.
Let's talk about some glass ceilings being shattered.
Jugo to buy summited heights no woman before her had reached.
We can show girls that anything is possible. It doesn't matter what they look like or where they come from. They can change the world.
%82% of teams struggle with inefficiency in innovation. Testing and validating ideas is still a tedious physical process involving pens, post-its, and it's difficult for teams to work remotely. Tracking the progress of multiple projects and storing their data is a complex and laborious task. Innovation teams also work on ideas in silos due to the lack of collaborative tools. This leads to a lot of innovation data being lost. Introducing PitchSpot. PitchSpot digitizes innovation frameworks for teams to discover, share, and build validated ideas for product development and venture creation. Reimagine innovation with PitchSpot. Here's how it works. Structure, test, and validate ideas on widely recognized innovation frameworks, such as the Business Model Canvas. Build roadmaps, workflows, and prioritize tasks to gather feedback for ideas. Ensure data security for your ideas stored in the cloud with SSL TLS encryption. Sign up for free to test and validate your ideas. Share your canvas with collaborators or share a view-only link with mentors, stakeholders, and potential investors. Learn faster, measure better, and build validated ideas with PitchSpark, your global launchpad for ideas.
Speaking at an AirMeet event? Awesome! Allow us to help you with the basics of AirMeet. As a speaker, you will be provided with a unique speaker link to enter the AirMeet event. Click on the link, and you will directly enter the AirMeet. No sign-in required. In case you have any issues with the link, don't sweat. You can just enter the session directly and ask the host to invite you on stage as a speaker. Once you've entered the AirMeet, you will land in the reception area. The reception is the official welcome area of AirMeet. Here, you can see what's happening live on stage. Check out the public chat and DM the host of the event to learn about your schedule. Click the Sessions tab, and you will be able to see the Go Backstage button for the session you are mapped to. Enter the backstage to have a private conversation with the host before the event, do a dry run, or to simply test your audio, video, and presentation. Once everything is in order, the host will be starting the session. If the session is already live by the time you enter the event, you will be directly taken to the live stage. Once the session has begun, you can present your content, share your screen, and connect with participants via chat, Q&A, emoji reactions, live polls, etc. You can also request the host to play your pre-recorded content in the live stage. You can switch layouts and put highlight focus on a particular speaker. Participants can use the raise hand feature to request to share the stage with you and interact with you directly. Post your session, you can visit the lounge. The lounge allows you to interact with the participants and build meaningful connections through virtual tables and speed networking. And last but not the least, to ensure a seamless speaking experience, you're expected to log in with laptops and desktops with Chrome 79+, Firefox 76+, Internet Edge, and Brave browsers with a minimum internet speed of 10 megabytes per second. If you are in an unsupported browser or device, you will not be able to present, speak, or interact in an AirMeet event. Have a fantastic and engaging speaking experience with AirMeet.
Developer student clubs train thousands of student developers globally and work with their communities to solve real-life problems. Google selects amazing students from across the globe once a year to be a developer student club lead and start a club on their campus. These leads believe knowledge is power and that technology can do extraordinary things for the world. They take on the responsibility to help students learn and empower these students to solve real problems around them. Join us in building a global community for students.
Developer student clubs are university-based communities where students learn about Google technology and use their skills to solve local problems. Welcome to the Developer Student Club's 2020 Solution Challenge Demo Day.
Let's check out the solution challenge.
Let's do this.
Okay, I'll present my screen.
Welcome to the Google Developer Student Club's 2021 Solution Challenge. The mission of this challenge is to use Google technology to solve for one of the United Nations' 17 Sustainable Development Goals, aiming to end poverty, ensure prosperity, and protect the planet. Win cool prizes, mentorship from Google, and swag. Get help along the way from Google at training events, code labs, and hackathons. Submit your solution by March 31st, 2021. Register today. We can't wait to see what you build.
Let's get started.
I originally belonged to a town in Pakistan called Hyderabad. While I was growing up, I used to see people working on these magical boxes called computers. I used to get fascinated by it a lot because you could actually use it for talking to people around the world or play games. But while I was growing up, I used to see a lot of men using computers. So I wondered if technology is for men only. My dad encouraged me to pursue computer science so I could learn about the world of technology. Computer science in Pakistan is a field predominantly with men. So I wasn't surprised to find out that I was one of the only 2 girls in my entire class. And despite getting good grades and being very active in academic activities, it was difficult for me to find that confidence to lead. Suddenly one day I found out about this program by Google called the Developer Student Clubs and mustered the courage to apply as a lead for my university. I simply couldn't believe the day I received the acceptance email. Being selected as a DSC lead not only connected me with several Googlers or industry experts, but also helped me build connections with students globally. The most memorable experience was connecting with the DSC leads from across Pakistan and getting a deep dive into Google technologies through a lens of a community builder. DSC had me think about all the incredible people, personally and professionally, I wouldn't have met, and friendships I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the community. I learned the art of interacting with people, pitching my ideas at hackathons, working with stakeholders, and also problem solving, which not only helped me win 2 national hackathons, but also the DSC signature competition, the Global Solutions Challenge. I believe DSC is just a start. It helped me connect with myself in ways I could have never imagined. I hope that young girls everywhere can step up to create their own opportunities in the position of leadership. And that's the cultural shift I want to bring in Pakistan. Because saying yes is the best thing you can do for yourself.
Hi, I'm Melissa Munoz, Program Manager for the Women Tech Makers team at Google. I'm excited to announce our new video series, Women Tech Makers in 60 Seconds. This series, available on the Women Tech Makers YouTube channel, takes topics, technologies, and the skills our presenters have spent years honing, and distills their knowledge into a format that's fun and easy to digest. We'll be publishing a new video every other Wednesday, so you'll meet a whole range of women tech makers from both within and outside Google. What can you learn in 60 seconds? Subscribe and find out. Get alerts for new episodes, and most importantly, share the playlist with your community. We believe strong role models inspire others to action and remove imagined barriers to success. So spread the word, share the link, and help create a more inclusive future.